Danny Chocolate Myers is a name synonymous with NASCAR, Richard Childress Racing, and the sport of stock car racing. On June 24, 2017, I had the opportunity to meet Chocolate and his lovely wife Karen at the annual Racers Reunion of Draper Speedway in Eden, North Carolina. Although I'm an avid racing fan, I had no idea at the time just how popular Chocolate is in the racing world and among racing fans. Chocolate comes from a family with a very rich heritage in the sport of stock car racing. I hope you enjoy this very informal but very informative interview with Danny Chocolate Myers and his wife Karen. Reunion of Draper Speedway. We're in Eden, North Carolina. Today is June the 24th, 2017. We're really pleased today here to have Danny Chocolate Myers here with us, and wanted to chat with him for a few minutes and appreciate him giving us a chance to do that. Danny, I guess many race fans, when they think about you, they think about the black number 3, Richard Childress Racing. But we'd like to know also a little bit about Chocolate Myers as a person.
Yeah.
Probably, if I have heard it, I don't remember, but I guess the question would be where the name Chocolate came from.
Well, let me get started, and I'll give you the whole story here in a nutshell. By the way, I'm not here by myself. I'm here with my wife, who is just coming off some serious back surgery. So
that's Karen here to my left.
Hey.
We're doing the best we can today, and really, to be honest with you, it was a struggle for us to get up here today, but we wanted to come up. We told everybody it was coming up, so we're here. So, growing up as a kid in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, my dad lost his life in 1957. So we were growing up single mom, single parent. I lived with my mother, my grandmother, and we had an opportunity, my brother and I, to play Little League football. So that old bus would pull up to the house, and we'd load up on that bus, and we'd go to this old dirt field over in Winston-Salem, and we would play Little League football. So we stayed outside all the time, and we just stayed plumb brown. And we were playing football one day, and I went out for a pass, and the coach said, "Catch the ball, Chocolate, drop," and all the other kids thought that was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. So from that day on, I was Chocolate Myers.
Okay, good. Tell us a little bit about the car behind you here. When I got here and met Daryl Gregory, he said you were over here by your car. So is that your car or somebody in your family that raced this car?
Yeah, it's our car. We've got 2 of them. Karen and I have 2 of them. And to be honest with you, without Karen, I probably wouldn't have any of them, because she's the one that's always going, get it. Unlike a lot of wives going like, "You're not going to do that." She's going like, get it. So she's a bigger part of this than I am. But yeah, this was one of my dad's cars back in the day, early 50s. We have 2 of these cars, both of them number 6A, but both of them a little bit different. One of them, black and white number 6A. A lot of people will remember that one. And then this one, the yellow and red number 6A. A lot of people remember this one. In different years, he drove different cars and drove for different people. But we found this car in Forsyth County 30-some years ago. But we didn't do anything with it. Another guy got it and fixed it, right? He had it for a while. And then somebody else had it for a while. The last time we saw this car was over 20 years ago. We saw it over in Knoxville, Tennessee. And almost a year ago, just a little over a year ago, we got a phone call from a man in Connecticut that said that he had been on vacation down in Miami, Florida, and saw this car sitting on the corner, and was kind enough to get the name and the information. So Karen and I called the guy just to give him the information about the car. We didn't want it, we didn't need it, because we already have one. But he wanted us to have it a whole lot more than we wanted it, and the price continued to come down, and finally we decided we were going to have this, and we went to Low Miami, Florida, got this car and brought it back to North Carolina where it belongs. Now, this car is an original car. We've not changed anything on it. We've not made it prettier. We've not made it more modern. It's a flathead Ford. It's basically 99% original. Other than we have converted this thing over to be able to drive it on the street if we want to. We live there in Lexington, North Carolina, and like most small towns across the country, they have a cruise-in once a month, and we can drive to the cruise-in. We don't have to trailer. So that's kind of the story behind it. But it's pretty awesome to be able to do this and go out and share with the race fans.
Well, I think it's great. Things like today that's being done here, and things that we're trying to do to preserve the history of our sport. And we again appreciate having you here today and doing this. So Lexington, North Carolina is your home now. Are you a Carolina boy from originally?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, grew up just a few miles from Bowman Gray Stadium. Always been around there, been a part of that. But I'm also a guy that loves the history of NASCAR. I'm a traditionalist, but I'm a realist, and I'll explain that to you. I absolutely love the way that it used to be, but I also understand it can't be that way anymore. Society has changed. Everything has changed. The races that we watched back in our day, they wouldn't work today. If we went to a racetrack today and sat down and watched one guy have a 5-lap lead on the field, I don't think that's what we're looking for. So things have changed, and I love it. I watch every day, every race. I continue to do this because I love it.
Seen a lot of changes, which change is inevitable with anything. Going back, of course, many fans associate you with that black number 3, and I know for me, from the standpoint of a fan, when I think the black 3 and I think Dale Earnhardt and Richard Childress, probably the next name that comes to mind is you. There have been different crew chiefs over the years, but you are always very, very popular among the fans. What was your job with Richard Childress Racing when you were with that car?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think we all had the same job, and the job was to do whatever needed to be done. We didn't have one guy that was a brake guy and another guy that was a suspension guy and the other guy was this guy. We did everything. But my relationship with Richard Childress goes back to Bowman Gray Stadium back in the days before we were even driving. We were both a couple of poor kids from the south side of Winston-Salem that were selling programs and drinks and whatever we could in the grandstands at Bowman Gray Stadium. Later, we started racing at Bowman Gray Stadium. I went with Richard Childress for his first race in 1969 at Daytona. And now I tell people when they ask me how long did I work for Richard, and I'm still there, and I tell them I started working in 1969. I started getting paid in 1982.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing. But look, I walked in the door at the right time. And when I walked in the door, I said, what can I do to help? I never said, that's not what I do. I never asked, how much does it pay? It was something that I wanted to do, and just been blessed to be a part of it. I think that it might have been, I don't think, I know that team, that car's the greatest race team that's ever been. I'm not taking anything away from anybody else, because there's been some greats out there. Jimmy Johnson is awesome. He's a 7-time champion. But I don't think anybody or any race team has ever had the impact on this sport that Dale Earnhardt, Richard Childress, and that Black 3 car did, because it was all at the exact perfect time in time, right?
Right.
TV was just getting into the sport. Dale Earnhardt brought the excitement and drama, and to be a part of that was fantastic. And now I'm there at the Richard Childress Racing Museum. I do Sirius XM NASCAR radio, so still being involved and heavily involved. But once again, without my wife, none of it would have been possible. She's the one. I continue to tell everybody that. And I see this, I do a lot of these things. I do a lot of these things. And they go to the old timers this, and back in the day that. And when I see the old guys, the legends of this sport, they all got one thing in common. Their wife's the reason that they were able to do what they, she's the one that took care of everything while they were having fun.
Absolutely. I've heard many stories similar to yours about how important the wife's role and their understanding and patience and involvement. I think about the Racing Wives Auxiliary, that I'm off the cuff here, but I want to think maybe Linda Petty was involved in starting it. But Caron, I see he's giving credit where credit's due.
Well, that's very kind of him, but he's really the wind beneath the wings over here. He really is, and it really is a team effort. We both had history in racing ourselves. I gave away trophies for NASCAR back in 1979 myself at the high level of NASCAR. So, I mean, we've both known all these people forever and ever. They're all our old friends, and where else would we rather be on a Saturday morning?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Chocolate, tell me, you're still working besides doing events like this, so you're still involved with Richard Childress Racing at the museum, like on a day-to-day basis?
Oh yeah, I'm there every day with the Richard Childress Racing Museum. By the way, a little plug here. Welcome, North Carolina. Welcome to welcome. You'll absolutely love it. The museum is fantastic. We have about 60 cars in the museum and a transporter. And now, almost 50 years of Richard Childress and NASCAR history. So I invite anybody to come by. I do Sirius XM NASCAR radio. I do that from a studio that's in the museum as well. So you come by and look in the window and wave. We're doing radio on Sirius and there at the Richard Childress Racing Museum.
I'm glad to hear about the radio because I wasn't even aware of that. So I'll have to look that up. So you have like a regular show of your own?
Yeah, our show is Monday through Friday, 11 till 3 every day. Channel 90 on Sirius Satellite Radio. It's fantastic. Give you an example. We go when we want to go, and we go a lot. But we keep up with everything that's going on. Watch the truck race last night. Watch Nemechek put on 4 tires late in the race and go by the winner. So that's what we talk about next week. So I do keep up.
So going back to those days, of course, something that usually comes up is the tragedy of what happened to Dale Earnhardt. But you were still active on the crew at that time, I believe, right? What was it like for the team making that adjustment? I mean, with him being, some people would say, how did you go on? But I can imagine that was a tough time for you guys.
It's a good question, and yeah, I guess one of the toughest things, not guess, but one of the toughest things I've ever been through in my life for a couple different reasons. One is you lose not only one of your best friends, but if your best friend is your hero, it's almost like a family member. And then there's the other part of it. It's also the guy that you're making a living with. Well, we got to feed the family. What do we do now? Where do we go now? Everything was good and grand and great, and now it's not. So we had to come in and decide what we were going to do. Richard Childress made that decision that we were going to continue to go to the racetrack. It was tough. Yeah, it was very, very difficult to go back to that racetrack. Still to this day, in the Richard Childress Racing Museum, there's videos in there and some a lot of stuff in there that will stop and make you think. So it was difficult. And it was at a time and we lost Dale. We started to build our team. We moved into a new building. We had a lot of things going on, but I was still heavily involved in it with it. So 20 years on the road, most of them with Dale, and through all the good times.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the success of that team has continued beyond him. So it says a lot about the structure you have there, and Richard himself and people like you. And for those that watch this through whatever media they may watch it, on YouTube or whatever, but put us in a plug about the museum. Where is it at in Winston-Salem? And
welcome, North Carolina. Going to be about 10-15 miles south of Winston-Salem, about an hour north of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's on old U.S. Highway 52, very easy to get to. Act like you're going to Lexington, North Carolina, go a little bit north. We're open till 10, from 10 till 6, Tuesday through Saturday, summertime hours. And we've got the team store, we've got the museum. If you come through the week, the race shop is also open to the public. You can come to Richard Childress Racing Museum and see the past, the present, and the future. So it's really a cool place to go. We have people from all over the world that come visit, so I think you'd enjoy it.
And I never have visited, but this has certainly stirred my interest today. I'll be coming to Winston-Salem. In fact, so how far would that be for those that don't know the area? Lexington is pretty close to Winston-Salem, is that right?
Lexington is 20 minutes south of Winston-Salem.
Okay.
So come to Lexington, the barbecue capital of the world, or at least as we know it.
Right.
So you can come to Lexington, you can get some barbecue, you can come on a Saturday to the Richard Childress Racing Museum and top all of that off with a trip just a few miles back north to Bowman Gray Stadium.